Hey there, Goblin here with a game I keep coming back to almost every year. Now it might be a habit, just like my uncle calls his alcohol problem, or the game is actually good, even 5 years since the initial release. Let's take a look. Kingdom Come Deliverance is an open-world RPG set in 1403 Bohemia, where magic and fantasy are substituted for realism and our protagonist is an average medieval citizen. He isn't the chosen one, a great warrior, or even a hobbit with exceptional ring-bearing skills. He's just Henry, the son of Skalit's blacksmith who doesn't really excel at anything. He doesn't know how to swing a sword or shoot a bow. In fact, he can't even read. His hobbies are drinking, beating up old people, and throwing manure at a house inhabited by German people, not knowing they probably like it more than he thinks.
Ja, bitte. Mehr.
Henry lives with his parents, to whom I'm sure nothing horrible will happen. Life is good in Skalitz. Henry has a girl, a father who likes to give him conflicting advice on life.
Goodness, not drunkard. That'll be fun.
Well, you're a big lad now. I'm sure you can manage.
Remember, Henry, if you want to convince someone that they're wrong, try using your mouth and not your fists.
And the Lord of Skalitz is very fond of him for a reason. Wonder where that's gonna go. But first, let's take a look at graphics. The game looks absolutely gorgeous even in 2023. There was a lot of love and care put into the world building and it shows. Sometimes you'll put your current objective on hold just to ride up on a hill to admire the landscape, or to visit a forest and spend a day in nature surrounded by animals and sometimes bandits. The sunlight shining through the trees on a pleasant day looks really nice and immersive. You'll be able to say, hey, I took a stroll through a forest today to your friends and confuse them by making them think you're an active person. Towns and villages look equally good. There's some impressive and realistic architecture, everything just fits together, there's no out of place buildings or props. There's a lot of variety, so you'll know if you're in Ledečko, Merhojet or Rataj. They aren't just copy-paste of one another. A detail I really like is puddles and mud in rainy weather and how people look for shelter and don't just stand around in the rain. Nighttime is not so great, because the game is really dark and there's no brightness setting. There is a potion that slightly redeems that, but without it you can get caught in pitch dark. But hey, what are you doing out at night without a torch anyway? Are you some kind of crook?
You must be up to no good, sneaking around in the dark. Light a torch before the catchpoles see you.
There is a problem here. No matter the draw distance, I've noticed texture popping and drawing in the distance. It happened often enough to become noticeable no matter the settings used. All of this on a machine which is able to run the game without a problem. There was no FPS drops, so I'm chalking it up to no loading in open world and CryEngine itself. Character models are good even close up. Faces do show some age, which is expected for a 5-year-old game. On the other hand, we have some very nicely detailed clothing and armor. Just look at the detail on Human Leader's mask. I have to mention the popping again because this is slightly disturbing. I ended up using a mod which seems to have solved the problem. Animations in general are good, although sometimes if you fast travel, the models load in and it looks like they've waited for action prompt to start moving around and do whatever people in medieval times did.
Such an affront to our Lord Jesus Christ!
Cabbage! Cabbage! Green cabbage! Get it before it goes brown!
At this point, let me quickly mention the HD texture pack, which I do recommend. Sound and music are next.
Ah, nonsense! I know the wheelwright. He's an honest fellow. And what could he do to cause it anyway?
What do I know? I don't make wheels. Maybe he fixed it with bad wood.
From clashing swords to screams of your unfortunate enemies, while you mercilessly stab them with a sword, It's excellent. A little detail I noticed is church bell in Ratai signaling the start of the day and waking people up. Not that I've been up all night perusing the stores, which brings me to my next point. Sound plays into gameplay too. If you want to be sneaky, be sure to remove all of that heavy and loud plate or chainmail and replace it with something quieter, like regular pants and a gambeson. Dark gambeson, not a white one. You're not an amateur. Voice acting is really good, no matter who you talk to, be it a beggar on the street or a lord telling you what to do next.
Can you repeat that?
Of course. Remember it now?
He'll repeat that whenever you ask him to do so. You can really tell a lot of thought went into the voice acting because the voices actually fit the personalities character in the game have. Here, let me show you one more example.
You come across this abandoned house. Can't miss it. Looks like a house, only abandoned.
Henry himself sounds a bit daft at the beginning of the game, but as you improve his speech, it seems as if he took a class on how to speak to people and how to act around nobility, unlike before.
Young Henry here is overwhelmed by your generosity.
Yes, thank you, milady. May God reward you for your kindness.
Lady Stephanie doesn't mind. She wants to, get to know Henry a bit better.
Henry, I know this is all very new and strange for you.
All of this is tied together by the soundtrack, which is the weakest part of this section. It's not bad by any means, it's just that there's too little of it. You'll be hearing the same track a lot of the time, and it becomes noticeable. It's sort of like that song you really liked, but then made a mistake of playing it on repeat and now it's just annoying. This was especially noticeable in a particular quest where Henry roleplays as a monk, and the track at night is always the same. It makes you kidnap the abbot, throw him in the river and just relieve some stress. If there's a sequel, I wish they would go the Witcher 3 route and let a local folk band do the music, if at all possible with the budget, along with the composers they used for this game. Combat, leveling and gameplay are next.
Ooh. Hold on. Ooh.
So you start off as a son of the blacksmith. You've no or questionable experience in combat and it shows. Your swings are wild, you get tired easily, and don't even know how to parry or perform master strikes. Don't even think about wielding a mace, you don't have the strength for it, and you can injure yourself while shooting a bow. Basically, you're one swing away from hurting yourself instead of the opponent.
Ow! Oh, that hurt!
Don't worry, you get better. Combat may seem clunky at first when Henry doesn't know what he's doing, but the more you use a weapon, the better you get with it, and soon your enemies will beg you for mercy.
Give me your coin, and you can go free.
So be it.
Christ!
What? He lied to me. He still had 0.8 groschen on him. The more perks you unlock through leveling, the stronger Henry becomes. Let's take Headcracker for example. See this friendly human here who just woke up while I was trying to rob him? One hit was all it took to take him out. Don't forget to coat your blade or arrows with poison or Dollmaker potion and watch the poor victim struggle with it, or just die in the middle of combat or while looking for you. Weapons you use can make a difference too. If your opponent is wearing heavy armor, maces and axes will do a much better job at defeating them than a sword will. Arrows are surprisingly effective against all armor, but I'm using only better piercing arrows which I borrowed from some people. Don't forget to keep a dagger in your inventory for all of those sweet stealth kills. The range of weapons is good, from trusty longswords to axes. Polearms and spears are featured in the game, but Henry cannot move them into inventory and can only be dropped after use. You can also use shields in your offhand, which will actually obscure your vision, but offer better protection. Same goes for helmets. You can wear a nice one that'll protect you, but your vision will be affected while in combat. You can also choose not to fight. Just wait until nightfall and poison the pot your enemies are eating from. You can also just kill them in their sleep. Combat isn't only stabbing or clobbering each other until someone's dead. You can get rid of enemies in many different ways. Although I tried to drown an unconscious person and they just upped and left. A bit disappointing since Thief, released in 1998, had the drowning feature. And yeah, if you try to tackle groups of enemies, you'll most likely die. Unlike in the movies where everyone waits for their turn to get their asses kicked, here they'll attack you all at once. I know Henry says he'll never run again, but trust me, he will. Not everything is good though. The combos you unlock through leveling felt extremely underwhelming, and I relied on Master Strike's encounters much more, as it seemed not only more effective, but safer too. Some of your enemies know Master Strikes too and will end your combo at the first swing. But combat and stabbing people is overall a fun pastime. As mentioned before, the more you use something, the better you get at it. That doesn't apply to combat only, but to, well, everything, including drinking. You'll gain perk points which you can then spend to make your character even better at drinking, stealing, or picking flowers. There's even a perk that makes picking flowers into a leg day, increasing your strength too. Other way to gain perk points is to learn your ABCs and buy or steal skill books. I don't know how reading a book on strength makes you stronger. I tried it and it didn't work on me, so I guess Henry is just built different. One thing you can read on all you want and will still be bad at it is horse riding. No matter the horse you have, they handle like a heavily intoxicated person role-playing as a horse. Jumping over obstacles is very inconsistent. Sometimes your horse will jump over a fence in the manner of an equestrian world champion, but will then get stuck on the smallest of obstacles. Trying to fight while on horseback is pretty bad too, and I found it's easier to dismount and hand out some bombs of truth that way. Now, the game does emphasize realism, so you'll have to sleep and eat in order to stay healthy. If you don't, you'll suffer some serious side effects, even death. Be careful though, the food will spoil and for the most part you won't be able to eat it unless you get a perk that lets you do just that. You know, just like sustaining yourself on a diet of Cheetos and Mountain Dew. You can also overeat, which will lower your stamina, and you'll get a nice reminder in a form of a pig icon on your UI. You can get rid of it by drinking a digestion potion. Potions in general are a big part of the game, and the best thing is, you don't need to buy them. You can make your own. While brewing potions is a process, it's also worth it and can be a very lucrative business on its own. More important, if you know how to brew a potion, you can always go into the world prepared for anything, whether it be a hangover or impending death. Real-life anime protagonists will be happy to learn that while you can wash yourself in-game, you don't need to. You can even choose a perk called Manly Odor, which reduces your stealth skill by 30% while you're unwashed, because people can smell you, but also gives you 50% more charisma while talking to women. Please, don't try this tactic in real life, it always backfires. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Also tying in with realism are injuries you sustain in and outside of combat. Get cut once too often and you'll start bleeding and need to bandage the wound. Get hit in the head and you'll suffer a head injury. If your legs are broken, you won't be able to run, and so on. Another thing to keep in mind is you can't heal during combat, so no wheels of cheese to help you out here. Story and quests are up next, so if you want to avoid the story spoilers, jump here.
In short, we shall let them knock each other's teeth out.
You've demonstrated that you're capable of solving problems.
They burned it to the ground. Slaughtered everyone.
Who? Who burned it to the ground?
A huge army.
The story begins in 1403 Bohemia, after the death of King Charles IV, who
had a long, unsuccessful reign.
Died. His son, Wenceslaus IV, is more of a redditor than a ruler, so his half-brother Sigismund decides to kidnap him and take the land for himself. Skalitz, The village Henry lives in is known for their silver mines and for being loyal to Wenceslaus, so Sigismund Zerg rushes them and kills anyone not quick enough to take refuge in the castle. Henry's father is killed by a Boldude and his mother gets penetrated by multiple men. He runs away, gets the last sword his father made stolen and swears revenge. Luckily for him, he keeps falling upwards just like Big Head from Silicon Valley, otherwise the game would be pretty short. Other quests range from fetch quests to reuniting with your buddies, trying to court a woman in a way that doesn't make you seem like you're frequently featured in our Nice Guys, and just some old-fashioned bare-knuckle fighting. There's also a quest where some women rub unknown ointment on themselves. Here's a tip: complete that quest. Here's the problem though. The world, while beautiful, is also very empty. Outside populated areas, you rarely meet someone save from a wayfarer or some bandits. I know it ties in with realism, but when the world is emptier than the Buffalo Sabres trophy room, there's a problem. While sightseeing is pleasant, I would like more events to happen while exploring to make open world seem more alive. If you play on PC, you can slightly remedy that with mods. There's some QOL mods I'd recommend, like first-person herb picking, colored arrow feathers, and for some people unlimited saving. Using savior schnapps before trying to take out a bandit camp with a bow can be a challenge. But while the world is empty, many times you'll set up your own quests. For me, it's transforming from chivalrous Henry during the day to Garrett, Master Thief, in the night. Let me share a story. Here I was minding my own business when a guard rudely interrupted me and wanted to search me. I forgot I have a stolen sword on me, so I was promptly left without a weapon. What I did was, I bought the sword legally, then went on to brew a pet food potion. This will be important later. I waited for nighttime and broke into the weapons store, tried to unlock a chest, but oh no, my lockpicking level isn't high enough. So I drank the pet food potion, unlocked the chest and stole all of my groschen back. Plus a little extra for my trouble. Then I went upstairs, knocked out an innocent store guard, stole his clothes and left him on a pile of manure. I paid a visit to him the next morning, only to see him stare quietly into the distance. So I left him alone and rode into the sunrise with my spoils. There's a lot of similar stories you can create yourself, like accidentally poisoning a pot and murdering a citizen, but if no one saw you, did you really do it? The beauty of the game is you can have Henry be the character you want him to be, a thief, charismatic bard, or just a dude who likes to bonk people. It's your choice. Speaking of characters, you'll meet a lot of them in your journey and they're all written really well. Maybe you'll start out hating one character and he'll surprise you by showing he's really not that bad. Or the opposite may happen. One detail I would like is when talking to people, if you just stare at them and space out like Joe from the show You, people would call you out on it. Personalities of characters you meet throughout the game really differ, and it's not just this one's good, this one's bad. Don't get me wrong, there is a clear villain and a few characters that you can tell are evil just by looking at them, but many others do have some nuance to them, like the priest who just wants to get drunk with you, or a monk with a shady past. One thing I was afraid of was that by doing everything but the main quest, I'd get a feeling that main story characters are just plot devices instead of people Henry cares about, but that didn't happen. Not only that, but characters like Ratzi Kobila, Sir Hanush, Sigismund and others are based on real people and you can look them up on Wikipedia. And yes, there is a romance option, which honestly wasn't executed as good as the main story or some other quests. After you're done with the quest for romance, you can't do much else. At least there could be some dialogue options or maybe organizing a nice night out. Instead, the love of your save file just becomes an NPC, and that's it. So taking all of this into account, how does the game hold up in 2023? Very good, and with all the DLCs and patches, it's better than ever. I remember playing it the first time it came out. It was still good, but plagued with a lot of bugs. I'll never forget the "Hey, Henrys comes to see us" every time I walked by someone or heads not loading, making the game focus on realism look quite unreal. None of that happened with the current version, and if you like open world RPGs, I can wholly recommend Kingdom Come Deliverance. You can get it for around $40 with all DLCs included, which given how long you'll spend in Bohemia is worth it. But what is your opinion on the game? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked what you saw, maybe subscribe and like the video. Until next time, be good to yourself and others. Goblin out.